Hemp Pitfalls, 300 plus bushel corn, and fake meat just keeps trying. Welcome to Friday on the Fly. This is Matthew Bain with really my favorite co-host. Can I say that?
Well, there you go.
My favorite co-host of
now.
Friday on the Fly.
I sincerely appreciate that, Matthew.
Tomas. How you doing this morning?
Doing well. How are you?
Excellent. I feel like a jackrabbit running around.
Already warmed up. I said you already done another podcast this morning.
Podcast,
man, I need to step up my game.
Yeah, I know. This is big stuff. So, Tomas, we've talked about hemp before on this podcast.
We
correct?
have multiple times.
We were not smoking dope or anything while we did it. Correct.
Not in the Bain Welker conference room / Plow Talk studio. Nope, not advised.
Most certainly not, or
not
elsewhere
advised.
For that matter.
Sure.
So, in talking about that, though, we talked about the positive sides, correct?
Yeah,
so
a lot of positives.
There are a lot of positives. There's a lot of neat things. I think probably one of the neatest things was the turnaround, right, for paper, if you wanted to have paper production, stuff like that, versus having to grow trees. Talked about a lot of good things, but today we wanted to bring to you a little article from a farmer who's been in the business now, I think some 4 years about. An article in AgWeb from Chris Bennett, and it's about a grower who is named Chris Adams, and he's established, I guess, as one of the leading hemp producers in the Midwest. But Tomas, not everything that he's found out in the hemp world is positive.
Yeah, he's really just encouraging people through this article to make sure they've got correct information that they're going off of if they're going to try to get into growing hemp. And so, yeah, Chris Adams, he's 32. He's got 9,000 acres located in North Dakota and Minnesota.
Just a small plot of land.
Yeah, and grows all kinds of different things. Sugar beets, hard red spring wheat, hemp, soybeans, and 6 varieties of dry beans. So he's got all kinds of things. He's got his own export company. And like Matt said, he's been involved with hemp for a little over 4 years. So he's somewhat of an expert. He's been doing it. He's been doing it right. But he has some warnings in here, and we'll read some quotes from the article. But it says, for potential growers, guys just starting, you have to realize there are a lot of scoundrels out there, and you'd best be selective as to who you get information from.
Amen.
Also, so many people don't realize how little they actually know. And others think they know because they were told by somebody else.
Enters Friday on the Fly.
That's right. Preach to that. We know really nothing other than what we're reading from you, Chris Adams. And it's likely they're banking on false information. When you buy seed and grow hemp, it's very, very important you know you have a good source. Right. He says probably 80% of the information he sees is probably wrong or partially wrong.
Wow. And see, that's a really good point, I guess. It's coming from a man who has some experience. Again, it's only 4 years, but nonetheless, it's more than I have, more than most people have, honestly, in this industry of hemp. And he makes just a good point that where I think what he's basically saying is where ignorance lies, scoundrels will prey, basically, right?
Sure.
Wherever the ignorant are, there's going to be scoundrels. You could let's equate it to I was just listening to a guy talk about the film industry earlier on my way here. He was talking about how these film festivals, they'll have 8,000 films or whatever come in, and they've already rigged it to who's going to win the film festival prize or whatever you want to say. And then there's the guys, he was talking about how he had come in and he was a young filmmaker and he just wanted to get a film produced by somebody. This big company finally gives him a chance. He doesn't have a lawyer with him, so the contract that he gets into is actually just messing him over hardcore. Right. So I think the same kind of thing it will happen potentially in any big industry that's going to have a lot of money. People are seeing dollar signs, aren't they, Tomas?
$2 for a seed. So a startup plant, $2 is what you're going to pay for hemp, it says in this article.
Atlanta.
And that's basically saying wherever there's money to be made, there's going to be crooks out there. And so
we've mentioned that before a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Of like the people who will probably ruin this for a lot of people are going to be those who, I was saying it would probably be those who grow marijuana, in their hemp farm.
Could be.
But this is another side of it, right?
Yeah. And again, we don't know nearly enough details, but if you read through this article, and we'll attach it to the link.
Yeah, we'll link it in the description.
Check it out, because the actual finding the actual plant, you could find a hemp seed that doesn't do anything for you because it's not fertile.
Yeah.
So I could sell you $2 seeds all day long, and you grow them, and they don't grow anything, and it would be kind of a bad deal. So there's a lot of, to quote the article, scoundrels out there to
I like this.
be aware of.
Yes, exactly. Let me just give a paragraph here from the article. Adams has the battle scars to back his words. So he's not, in other words, he's not, just throwing out statements on this to scare people off or anything like that. In 2018, he bought a batch of clones from Colorado that served as Trojan horses. So there's a section that's, titled Trojan Horse and goes through, I think, what you were talking about, right, Tomas, with the seeds and all that. After planting the purported clones on 3.5 acres of ground and anticipating a good harvest as the plants climbed nearly 7 foot tall by September, Adams found 2,000 males carrying fat pollen pouches in the field. Verboten from CBD hemp, which requires all female production. Salt in the wound, even the plants he was able to harvest from the Colorado source produced an abysmally low CBD level of 1.5%. So he, first of all, didn't have all female, right? And then at that, what he did have a female was at too low of a percentage to be worth enough. So anyway, that's his own story. Again, check it out like Tomas said there. We will link it in the description on the website for the episode. So moving on, 300 plus bushel of corn. I thought this year was going to be terrible, Tomas.
Well, there are pockets that are definitely worse off than others, but there's a latest article from yesterday on AgWeb, Rhonda Brooks, and it's article's a strong word. It's just a few paragraphs, but it really goes through, and harvest has started, and we wanted to mention that harvest has started in our world, right? Western, southwest
beans
Indiana.
Down.
We've had
down
some
where I'm
guys
at.
get some beans out, some early beans. We're starting to get corn out. It's still wet.
I was
So
talking
everybody-
to somebody you and I mutually know, who the wife of the guy, and I asked if harvest had started for them yet, and she's like, yeah, the sample plot that we did to see, to get a feel for the beginning of the planting season, I don't know how many acres it was, but it was funny because she's like, yeah, little did we know we probably should have just planted everything that day.
Right. Yeah,
Anyway,
as much
sorry.
as you could have.
I keep interrupting you, Tomas.
No,
Go-
you're
go
fine.
for it.
It has started. So everybody be safe out there. We wanted to make sure we hit on harvest, but this article plays right into that because it says in Defiance County, Ohio, there were miles of fields that weren't even planted, and I think it's a similar stretch. There are pockets of that in Indiana, in Illinois, definitely in Ohio. But then harvest has been going out west here for a week or so, pretty heavy. And Crop Tech Inc. near Hayworth, Illinois, saw some fields between 240 bushel and 300 bushel corn, which is unreal for the conditions that we had this spring. So
Right, yeah.
I pray that we have some pockets of those around around some of our nice people here in Indiana and Ohio,
Yeah.
and really everywhere. But there's going to be a shortage. I think it's pretty well known to this point that there's not going to be as much as there has been in the past.
Yeah, but hopefully plots like that, right, will make up a little bit, right? It's not going to make up everything by any means, but when you have miles of unplanted ground. But just a little promo for Monday's episode, we talked with some gentlemen, one from the Farm Bureau and another from Indiana Soybean Alliance. Check that out coming Monday. The gentleman from Farm Bureau, though, mentioned something right along these lines that he has a friend or somebody he knows who was saying normally he has like 40,000 bushel that he is putting on market, and this year he has a hog production also, but this year he said he doesn't know that he's going to have enough to feed his hogs, let alone be able to sell on market. So it is a reality. It is going to be a shortage, but again, that is hopefully going to be coupled with some good yields like this 300 bushel. And that's what he brought up as well. It wasn't just a negative story. He was saying how actually the guy, if I remember correctly, I think he said it in a way that it was a positive that he'd gotten more than he expected, but he was still going to be short. Listen to the episode. Maybe I got that wrong,
Sure.
but I think that's how he said it.
It's nice to have a little optimism there.
Right. Yeah. So even in the face of, potentially dismal
Right.
times, right? So.
Right.
All right. Well, our whiplash, Tomas.
Yeah, it's still somewhat related to ag, and we've talked about it before, but the fake meat industry is changing all the time,
It's
and
thriving
it's depressing.
in their own world, I guess. Yeah.
And Burger King has launched a new commercial campaign about their fake meat sandwich and the Impossible Burger.
Oh, I don't even want to talk
which
about Burger
it's
King.
impossible to envision eating that burger. I cannot.
It's not a burger.
Correct. It is a fake meat patty
they're
or
all
something.
with the times, all with the times. Them Burger
So
Kings.
this article is on Yahoo. Melody Ham is Ham. Probably didn't go by Ham. Talking about fake meat. But anyways, it's talking about the battle of really the two juggernauts in the fake meat industry. You've got Impossible Foods and you've got Beyond Meat. And Beyond Meat has been the really exclusive one for a long time, and Impossible Foods is really picking it up. And Impossible Foods is actually the one that is in with Burger King, so they're their suppliers, and Impossible Foods has been primarily going to the restaurant type industry, so Cheesecake Factory, White Castle, Qdoba, Dave and Buster's, Red Robin, Hard Rock Cafe. They're now moving into grocery stores, which is where Beyond Meat has had its foothold in for a long time with Albertsons, Kroger, Osco, Target, Whole Foods. That's where Beyond Meat has really had its stake in, and they are moving into Carl's Jr., Dunkin' Donuts, Tim Hortons, TGI Fridays, and so it's interesting to see this battle of fake meat industries and how we can.
What was it recently? Go ahead.
Like? I don't even know what it's going to look like. I hope I go to a restaurant and I order a cheeseburger and it actually is a cheeseburger.
Has there been like a war on beef as of late? I mean, there's always been, the vegan and vegetarian or whatever. But was there something Ellen or something said recently? Do you know anything about that?
Oh, I'm sure there is. It grows and grows it's like instant replay
Not
baseball.
That Ellen
is destroying everything.
Not that she is at all worth mentioning on this podcast, just throwing that out there, but there was something where in Twitter, the ag Twitter world, some woman was asking Ellen to bring her on her show because she's a beef rancher. She's a cattle rancher.
I did see that on Facebook. Yes.
So I don't know what the backstory.
There must have been
some
kind of
there's some
controversy or negativity towards the cattle industry, and they were wanting to get on and talk about it positively.
I'll tell you who's an expert on beef, Tomas. Ellen. If anybody's an expert in cattle, it is Ellen.
Well, and whether she's an expert or not, I'm sure she has a lot of people on her shows that she's not an expert in. But what I will say, she has a platform to where if we can get positive people talking about agriculture on a platform like that, national audience, good
potential,
thing. Good thing.
Yeah,
That's
but
you
have to think of the natural watchers though of Ellen. They want to hear what Ellen spins. So I mean, you have to think: will they actually listen to the true side of it?
I think they will. I would be very interested in that. I think it would be exciting to get some national exposure that's positive instead of
at the very least to be entertaining.
Negative.
So,
yeah,
which is what they want, right? To make ratings go up. So there you go.
Sure, but talking about cows in a positive way, we need more real beef.
Yes, and anyway, there's just so much that goes into it. I was talking with someone the other day about how they were listening to our Friday on the Fly, and they were surprised by the leather aspect of it, the tanned hides. I was just thinking the other day how complex this whole thing really is. How we don't often think too much about it. That's another kind of promo for Monday's episode. We do talk about that with the Soybean Alliance dealing with the whole state of Indiana and all that goes on in ag that contributes to the economy of Indiana. Things we just don't think about. There's things going on. For instance, there's a we didn't talk about this, but there's a what is it, Fisher's Farms or whatever up in over in Shelbyville. I think you wouldn't believe that. I've heard their facility is just real nice, and you just want to expect it to be right there in Shelbyville, Indiana, right? So anyway, there's just a lot going on in Indiana ag and in the Midwest, and oftentimes we don't think about it.
Might be something we look into to talk about on here because you're right. There are a lot of hidden gems with agriculture within Indiana, and it's a lot more diverse than just corn and soybeans and
I guess
pigs and cows.
That's a tangent there, but just on the complexity of how, going back to the beef aspect, you have Hollywood talking about beef in a negative way. Then you have a huge market for beef, though, that's actually penetrating into the leather market.
Right.
And so it's just interesting how it all works.
And it doesn't include those third world countries that are demanding more protein, different kinds of protein.
China
so
needing a
our
different
export
kind,
business is hugely impacted by that as well. So.
Yeah. Interesting stuff out there. Anything going on beyond the ag world, Tomas, that you want to talk about? The iPhone came out. I have no specs on that, but just throwing that out there.
I'm
for
sure
people.
it's expensive, and it's about Christmas time,
It's expensive.
we're due for a new iPhone. So everybody be ready and prepared.
I think the new iOS system comes out. The update or whatever is going to come out. Maybe it came out yesterday. Maybe it did just come out.
I don't know. We kind of
Did
looked
your
it up,
phone-
but
yeah.
no, I don't. I don't update my phone ever
So that's
until
a thing.
Kenny forces me to. But
We'll see the next new iPhone in another 3 weeks. That's just a joke, but I mean, it's
the Yankees
it's funny
clinched the
when it
playoff
doesn't
spot.
become
They
a
won
joke.
the division for the first time since 2012, and Antonio Brown is still on all kinds of trouble. So
And
that's
it's,
pretty well the sports world. That summarizes ESPN for you.
And speaking of trouble, it's 8:00 and you're late for a meeting.
I better run.
Alrighty. Well, everybody out there, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do subscribe, do share on your favorite social media platform. We would really appreciate that. We love to broaden our audience and get whatever beneficial content we have out there to people. At the very least, if it's entertaining, let your friends know so they can be entertained as well. I mean, come on. Share the wealth, share the love. And go ahead and let us know what you'd like to hear about. So on Thursdays specifically, I'm going to start trying to do this more often to get your guys' opinions on what you'd like to hear about. If you have an article you've seen that is noteworthy, send it to us on Thursday. That way on Fridays, we can pick that article up and Tomas and I can talk about it. And we can have, even though it's called Friday on the Fly, it'll be a little less on the fly because we'll have an article the night before, which is kind of new.
Would be rare.
It would be. Anyway, all right. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later.